Okay, welcome to Panvala's December Town Hall. Thanks everyone for coming. We are currently at 90 communities, which is really exciting. That just crept up on us, I feel like. And we have a few more that just applied. So if you know of any other communities that would potentially be interested, whether they are Web3 or IRL communities, please connect us, because the bigger we are, the kind of easier it is to sustain our treasury, and the more people we can help. And again, it doesn't matter if it's Web3 or in real life. We're going to start with Almond from Giveth, because I know she's on a time crunch, and they're going to talk about our partnership that we just formed. So I'll hand it over to Almond.
Thank you so much, Rachel. And actually, we were talking about this partnership and this new collaboration in the last meeting that we were at Giveth just an hour ago. And yeah, well, I'm part of the Communitas working group at Giveth. So basically, we take care of the community. Also, the Communitas team works hand by hand with the Giveth verified projects. And just to give you context about this, in case you don't know, Giveth is a platform for fundraising in which projects can post to whatever project, social impact project, or maybe an art project, or whatever they want, in order to get funds via cryptocurrencies. So some projects that may be nonprofits, maybe they can be registered organizations, they can apply to get verified. And in that case, they will get the verified badge, which basically gives them more visibility in the platform. This does not mean that they are better than projects that are not verified, but let's say that verified projects are more working into specific cause for more time. Maybe they're not new compared to other projects that may be brand new and they may be starting their social impact work. So this chapter collaboration, being Giveth being the best network Panvala chapter, will basically mean that the verified projects on Giveth will be able to get stamps in order to get PAN. So we just submitted the request to become a network chapter. And we are working hand by hand with Paul and with Niran to make these as easier as possible to the project owners of verified projects. So meaning we're building the communications for them to know that this alliance is happening. So now that they can access stamps and other comms efforts, as well as marketing efforts, to announce this partnership in a couple of weeks from now. So yeah, we're really exciting to make this partnership happen, especially for project owners as Cheo, that's part of our community, to have access to this as well in order to support their projects and their work as well. So I don't know if you have any questions, if Paul wants to add something around this. We're really grateful, by the way. Thank you so much for this.
Yeah, that was good. I'll add a couple more points. So for people who are familiar with the SAMPS program but not with the chapters program yet, the chapters program was just passed as a proposal, and it's restructuring Panvala to be able to affect more communities. And the way that the SAMPS program has worked to this point is that you need to be in the Panvala League to have access to the benefits of redeeming stamps for your community. And so what chapters is going to let us do is access different groups of communities that are pre-existing in one way or another. Giveth is a network chapter because they have lots of communities that are already active within Giveth. But we also want to target geographic regions and then potentially one day topics, so that like climate change or homelessness or a specific type of problem that communities are trying to solve. So Giveth was the perfect ideal first community to be set up as a chapter. They have about 200 verified projects on Giveth, and the whole purpose of Giveth is to use this creative economic structure to help get these nonprofit communities and sort of non-private company, public good serving communities be able to get them funding in new creative ways using cryptocurrency and Web3. And so that lines up really well with what Panvala is doing, especially with the STAMPS program. So we're very excited that Giveth is working with us, and Almond is amazing to work with, along with Ashley. So I'm very optimistic about what's going to come out of this.
Thank you so much, Paul. I think that you explained it beautifully. And just an invitation, we were having actually Niran and Paul in our This Week community call, which happens every Thursday at 10 a.m. CT Central Time, meaning 1 hour later in New York. So if you want to join, it will be happening at the community voice channel tomorrow at Discord. Thursday, I'm sorry, at Discord, so you can support the team and hear a little bit more about the chapters and this effort that's going to be happening.
Yeah, does anyone have any questions about the chapters program or how it's going to look with Giveth?
Thanks for sharing, Alman. I'm just going to explore Giveth right now and join your Discord.
Thank you, Dan. Yeah, it would be great if you can join and just check it out. And if you have maybe a project that you would like to post on the platform, it's super easy. You just need to have the wallet address, and that's it. The funds are going to go straight to the wallet without the platform taking any fees. So please go ahead. And if you have any questions, well, maybe regarding the chapters, you can reach out to Paul. If you have any comments or questions regarding Giveth, please reach out to me. You can find me as Oye Almond everywhere. I'm going to write it on the chat. So please feel free to shoot me a message. And yeah, very excited to have Niran and Paul this Thursday.
Also, Almond, I think we met at DEF CON, right? This is the same person.
Yeah, Shan, we were working together at the Shelling Point at Gitcoin. Yeah, we volunteered to
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy how small the world is. I did not expect to see.
Yeah, that was really great. Yeah, I recognize you, and I mentioned that, but then you could not listen to me because my audio was not working. But yeah, we met at Shelling Point.
Yeah, super cool.
Well, thank you so much, Rachel, and I'm really happy and glad to be here. Yeah, I need to jump off to go to another meeting as we're preparing a really important launch at Giveth, and it was really nice to meet you all and talk to you all.
Thank you, Almond. Just one quick question Ripley had about your calls. They're weekly, every Thursday, or
Yeah.
monthly?
No, it's every Thursday, and it would be great, Rachel, to have you this Thursday. Yeah. And basically is a call in which all the DAO and all the working groups present updates. And at the end, we dedicate a community spotlight in which some community that's working with Giveth or that has some relation with Giveth presents their work. And in this week, we're going to have Panvala. So it would be great to see you around.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for the invite. Shea, we're going to get more into chapters a little bit later. I'm going to have Sean talk about HEA or Happily Ever After next, and then we'll get into chapters. So I'm going to wait to answer your question. So Sean, go for it.
And give me, oh, bye-bye. I'm just gonna share my screen. Can you guys all see this? Okay, perfect. Yeah, so grateful to be here with everyone and really excited to start being a part of Panvala and their community of communities. My name is Sean, and I'm just here to talk about what we've been working on at Happily Ever After. So maybe just a little bit of background. This is actually what a 90-year human life looks like in months. Every row here is 3 years, and it looks like a lot of time. Just to plot it out for you guys, this is where you'll be 21. If you're around my age, I'm 22 right now. If you're 42, that would be right around the middle mark. And you would think that there's still, half of life to go before you hit the 90-year mark, which is life expectancy in Singapore, and in a lot of places it's about 80. But even though you're 42 and it looks like there's so much time left, actually the average diabetes onset is like right after you hit 42, a couple years later. And then after that, that's the average cancer offset just below that. And if you make it to around the year of 70, you get the average arthritis onset. So you notice that even though you seem to have half your life left, like in terms of your actual health span, you actually don't have that much time in the latter half of your life. And it'd be a much better world if instead of trying to focus so much on prolonging what is a painful, slow suffering process of aging, we instead focus on pushing these sort of old age oriented diseases over to as late as possible. So we have a much more fruitful life, a life where we can actually have autonomy and live rather than being tied down to medicines and drugs towards the end of our life. So this is in essence what HEA is about. It's about this idea that instead of having the system of healthcare that we have right now, which is highly reactive, you get sick, you go to the hospital, you get yourself fixed kind of approach to healthcare, but instead flipping it to say, maybe we shouldn't be focusing so much on reacting to health problems, but rather focusing on preventing them and trying to push down these age-related conditions much further down the pipeline. And in fact, like if we look at trends right now, it's actually the opposite because we have high obesity, we have all these different metabolic conditions that are popping up due to the way that the sort of modern lifestyle has been polluting our well-being. HEA's main slogan or mission statement right now is collectively creating global preventive care, and that reflects this idea that we should focus on prevention, not a cure. When we started working on this back in, maybe a couple of months back, I think it sprung out of a very different place and we pivoted a couple of times. But the key realization that has stuck with all the people who are contributing to HEA is the fact that 89% of well-being is actually non-clinical. So if you look at the red part, the 11%, that's related to your clinical care, but a lot of it has to do with behavior. A lot of it has to do with social circumstances. And a lot of that is highly localized to your communities. So instead of thinking about health as something that only a clinical system can solve, it is actually more true that health is something that your community plays a really big role in. And it's really important to consider these hyperlocal community factors when you're thinking about well-being. So then, we got to thinking, and this is something that has popped out of not just us as sort of core team members at HEA, but also from the broader community that consists of clinicians, consists of nutritionists, consists of people doing spiritual practice. And we have been thinking about how to put all these different ideas about local well-being and preventive care together. So can we imagine healthcare or care as a local space, a space to approach well-being in a safe and guided setting, a space where it's locally contextualized to that community's specific situation. So if it's a lower socioeconomic community versus a higher socioeconomic community, the communities based in India, they have different dietary requirements than a community that's based in America. So, and it's not just about those sorts of physical spaces, but it's also about holding space to allow people to approach what health and well-being means to them, because that means very different things to very different people. Can we also imagine care as a culture of co-creation of health rather than a prescriptive culture where you go to a doctor and you get a prescription? We want to let people feel listened to, and their experience for their own well-being needs to be personalized. And rather than having empathy, which is essentially saying, in a lot of cases, it's like pretending to understand what the person is going through, but instead have care where you listen to them and practice a culture of active listening. And lastly, can we imagine care as a network, as a tool where you could coordinate these sorts of different local spaces to solve problems, to share tools, to share software experiences and ideas. This becomes really important because health in itself is a public good. When you make a sleep platform, it's important that as many people have access to it as possible. And these sorts of fundamental tools are public goods. They have really low cost to share with people, because once you've written the software, you can run it as many times as you want. And another part about care as a network is really the importance of caregiver support, which is the people who are giving care are often the people who are burning out, especially in the healthcare setting. But something like 60% of doctors don't actually feel like their profession is self-fulfilling anymore, as opposed to maybe even 2 decades, 3 decades ago, where the number is a lot higher. So what's HEA? Well, HEA is a community-run network of health and well-being spaces. So essentially, we're reimagining what preventive healthcare could be by thinking about healthcare as a network of highly localized community wellness centers. This is very different to how a typical hierarchical structure for healthcare operates as a government or a state level, where you have this idea that you could have a one-size-fits-all health policy that then cascades down to different communities. But even in small countries, the communities are highly diverse and highly different. In fact, we wrote a blog article on something called the Cuban paradox, which is an interesting article on how healthcare is approached in Cuba, where they have these very high doctor to population ratio, and they have small community centers where teams of medical practitioners serve about 20 to 40 families. And they achieve like life expectancies that are much higher than the US and spend 5 times less than the US to achieve those outcomes by focusing on preventive primary care. So how does the network actually work right now? Well, there are different layers to it, like in any network. And the base layer is what we call healers. Healers are active contributors in HEA's ecosystem. They are people who are actually doing stuff, running the community centers, working on projects together. And these are the base unit of organization at HEA. We have about 15 healers now, and we have a larger community, but we're quite selective with who we choose to incorporate into our healer community. All of them need to be really aligned and really focused on this idea of preventive well-being. So above the healers actually team up in interesting organic ways. We don't really have hierarchies like in any DAO, but rather we have squads that work on projects. Projects are things that power the network. This could be software, this could be experiences. A few examples would be, we recently, I started a local project in London where we're doing well-being walks for the community. The first thing is going to start in about 2 weeks' time. There are other examples of projects. For example, the actual ideation process for the DAO was actually happening in projects as well. And yeah, so these are just small squads of people working on projects. Above that, what actually the projects aim to move towards and what our next big milestone is this idea of spaces, which are the autonomous local wellness clinics. And the idea here is very much that healers will build projects make up, a group of projects can make a space, and a space can be an autonomous team that provides wellness services to its local community. So those are spaces. And together, when you put all these spaces together, you get the care network that we're trying to build. We're really early, we're really small, and we're really excited to get started and reimagine what a healthcare system could look like. We're also actively trying to figure out how do we actually run a nonprofit like this? How do we actually make it sustainable? And these are all really big problems that we're tackling in various different projects at HEA. If you're interested in what you're hearing and you're interested in this vision, you can always come and join us, or even just ping me after the presentation. And yeah, thank you so much for your time. And I'm really grateful to be here and excited to see how we could work together.
Thank you, Sean, and welcome, Jose. I have some questions, and then if anyone else has any questions. So the community centers, are there currently any physical community centers, or is it more projects, like these projects you were talking about?
So right now, I think we are at the project stage, and the next milestone for us is really setting up what we call Space One, or the first community center. But we want to get the first one right, because we want to first need to figure out what the right location is going to be and what the correct minimum set of projects are. So we don't want to go too big or too small, right? So hopefully at the end of season 1, which for us ends at the end of the year, we'll be able to publish a white paper on what Space 1 is going to look like. And then season 2, which is going to start in Jan, would be about building that out. But right now we're very much at the stage where we're collecting interest, like seeing how the demand looks like and how we can bring in the correct group of people together. Because in the health space, credibility is super important, and we don't want to go too fast and then not have the credibility to say like this is actually going to work out. So yeah.
And sorry. Someone else has. I was telling Jan that I don't know how familiar you are with Ayurveda, but this is right in alignment with Ayurveda because it's all preventative. So are you very familiar with it, Sean?
Yeah, my mom has a lot of experience with it actually. And because the village I was from in India, there was quite a high level of distrust to traditional medical practice. My uncle is actually a doctor in the village, and my maternal family is very into Ayurvedic or more like traditional healing. So yeah, there's a lot of interesting background in the preventive care space, which I think deserves to be explored. And we are looking for really a balance between the more medical side of things, but like not excluding the spiritual or alternative types of things, because I think like, especially when I think about preventive well-being, sometimes it's important to see what that person really wants to do with their well-being, because when you tell them to like do a certain thing, it never really works out, because it has to be a process of co-creation, and it's really about like not just telling people what they should do, because everyone knows what they should do: sleep 7 hours a day, walk 10,000 steps. Like any doctor will tell you this, and that is pretty much the secret to it. But you have to make them actually want to do it. And some of that involves alternative therapy, and some of that is also about mentality and spirituality. So it's finding that balance for the individual person that I think is the important process that needs to be figured out.
So I have a question. So in HEA's vision of these community-run preventative health centers, like what is the relationship between the person seeking preventative care and the people running the center? Like if it's community-run, like what does community mean to you in that regard? Is it just that it's a kind of DAO running preventative health centers, or is the person seeking the care part of some sort of community that is also running in the center?
I think when you think about wellness centers, there are two aspects to it. And we like to think about it as the experts, and then there's the peer support. So in the expert side of things, you obviously need people who know and have done proper research or education in the health sciences field. So these are people who are either trained nurses, people who are trained operational therapists. So these sorts of like health-backed fields. And those are the people who are going to be running more of the expert services. And when a person, say, joins a wellness center, they'll probably go to one of these people to orient themselves to what sorts of preventive care they might be a good fit for. But then at the same time, I think a lot of the care system is also about peer-to-peer support and being with people that you personally resonate with. So when you join the network, I think about it as a culture, and the culture itself is peer-led, but then you have to create the safe space and the guided space where people are not just left wondering what's the truth and what's not the truth, because that's what you want to avoid. So I think there are two layers. The healers, in our sense, are supposed to be the experts. The people running the actual clinics are trained in whatever field that they're bringing to the clinic. So that part is definitely an expert to sort of, I don't know, like you can call it a patient relationship, but we try not to call them patients. But And then the peer side is actually being part of the community, coming to the activities, making friends, forming peer support groups. Those sorts of stuff is also there. Yeah, I do suspect though that at the start, it's going to be more peer-led than expert-led as we build momentum. So that is, yeah, that's definitely going to be true.
I think I get it. So let me make sure that I'm repeating it correctly. So basically, like, you're still going to get care from experts, but the difference between kind of the traditional existing system and what you're building is that basically you're being plugged into peer groups that help you actually live your life in a way that embeds preventative health care into various aspects of it. So you're not just a single patient, you're basically with your peer group that's supporting you in a community-centered sort of way.
Yeah, and maybe another way to put it also is that a lot of times when you think about these health centers, they think about people as an individual, right? So you look at that specific person. The tools that we're trying to build, like try to look at health from a community perspective, not from an individual perspective. So if you see many people coming in with sleep problems, you know that your community has a sleep problem. And if you can identify those sorts of patterns, then you can treat things in a more community context sense, not just you look at each person in their individual perspective. Yeah.
I don't know if you have checked out Dandelion Collective. I'm going to drop the link. It's different than what you're doing, but they're also London-based. And they do more like spiritual experiences, but they're a hub for it. So anyway, I don't know. You might be interested to see what they're.
I think they did I definitely have heard of them. I remember them doing something in Paris recently that I couldn't go to because I had school. But yeah, they're really cool. I should definitely check them out when I get the time.
Any other
Yeah.
questions for Sean or Jan? Jose, I wasn't sure if you had a question specifically for them.
While we wait for other people's questions, I have one more thing. So one reason why I love HEA in particular is because of how ambitious what you're taking on is. And there's a lot of people who, like, if you said, hey, like, the future of preventative healthcare is community oriented, is community centered, is community funded, a lot of people would laugh you out of the room. But really what's core to what we believe with Panvala is that where our economy is headed is actually a community-centered economy, where communities have resources to take on the problems that they see in ways that actually serve people better. So really, what Panvala needs to succeed is communities with wild, crazy ambitions, so we can actually show people what's possible. We can show people like, hey, here are resources that communities have the power to get on their own. And here's the kind of ambitious visions that they can build out with those resources. Like, I am so excited to follow your story as you build this out, so we can tell the story together of what it looks like to have an economy that really centers communities. So I'm really excited about what y'all are doing.
Yeah, actually, how I stumbled upon you guys is Niran came to Kernel, and I was in Kernel Block 7, and I saw like a lot of parallels between what Panvala was trying to do and what we were trying to do as well. So I just had to reach out, and so yeah, I'm really excited as well, and really looking forward to this. And yeah, and previously, actually, a bit of backstory or context. We were thinking about this a lot more like a startup. At least when we started back in March or April, we were part of a impact collective in Singapore called Audacity, and we were essentially, I would say, I'm a startup founder. Very quickly, like I didn't really want to go down the path of like VC raise, that specific exit path. Didn't seem like the right way to do global preventive healthcare. I feel like it was a very touchy path that could easily be perverted and turn you into something that you didn't want to be. So yeah, really excited how we can explore different ways of getting that sort of sustainable funding model down as well.
Okay, thank you for sharing. And if anyone else has any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We're going to keep moving on and get into some Panvala updates. I'm going to share my screen again. Okay. Okay, so HEA is one of our newest communities. We also have another community that just joined called the Human Connection, and they're based out of Richmond, Virginia. And it's another community that is trying to be have chapters and have experiences as well. So it's kind of interesting. So just to talk a little bit about chapters, we heard from Giveth, who is our first network chapter. And so network chapters are communities that are an existing or that are a part of an existing network of organizations. The other kind of chapter that we are working on are communities in geographic areas. So that would be like if you look at the little picture to the right, like in real life communities in Denver or real life communities in Austin, like physical places that you could actually go. And those would be, again, the chapter for those regions. And right now we have our Web3 chapter, which are the communities that are all tied together through Web3. So those are the different chapters we have. Giveth is its own network chapter. So every community that's a part of Giveth is in that network chapter. And so they get to take advantage of Panvala just by being a part of Giveth. So I'm not sure, Teo, if that answered your question, but if not, let me know. Staking for everyone, for all of our communities, that begins January 13th. We have a new platform for staking that Paul and Niran put together for us. And we will send out more information about that too.
Really quickly on chapters, just to give people an idea of what this movement looks like going forward. Like it's really, instead of thinking of one big Panvala where we're trying to get all these communities together, trying to get these sponsors to offer stamps that they can collect, trying to get individual members of the communities to collect the stamps, thinking of really that model being replicated in many different contexts around the world. We have Web3 communities where that pattern exists. There's Web3 sponsors that are offering stamps that Web3 communities are getting their members to go out and collect. And that's great. We want to show people in the Giveth network that they can do the same thing. We want to show people in cities around the United States, whether it's Austin, Denver, New York, that they can do the same thing. We want to show people in cities around the world, whether it's London, Singapore, Bangalore, that they can do the same thing. And really show people how communities across the world can shift value that already exists in our economy into their budgets. That's really what this whole movement is all about. We believe that every marketing dollar can and should flow to communities. And we're just showing people a power that they already have. Like Panvala is not the source of value in this movement. All we do is show communities how to do something they already have the power to do. And if you think of the labor movement, it was really about teaching workers how to use a power they already had. It's not that workers were suddenly powerful. Workers always had power. They just needed to be organized to learn how to use it and actually get the better conditions, the better pay, et cetera, that they were looking for. Similarly, we want to show communities how to use a power they already have. You already have the power to shift marketing dollars into your community's budget. I did not create that. That's something that belongs to you. I just want to help show each and every community how to use it and to use it in concert, because the more communities that are doing it, the easier it is for us to shift the entire marketing economy to make value flow in the way that we described. That's what's going to make sure that every community can fund preventative healthcare, that every community can fund the kinds of grants to give out to the things that they care about, that every community can make the life in their community more thriving, more supportive to all their members. That's what it looks like It's really multiple kinds of contexts for Panvala to live in rather than one big Panvala. That's where this is headed. You should expect to see more chapters from more pre-existing networks, bringing their communities to be a part of this movement. And again, branching out city by city to show communities on the ground that aren't a part of some pre-existing network, that are just the arts groups, the cultural groups, different kinds of nonprofit clubs, causes, whatever it is, plugging them all into this movement to show them how to use this power they already have but aren't using yet. That's what this movement is.
And I just want to add to plant a seed for Sean that Happily Ever After would make up a great chapter, because if you guys have a lot of local peer preventative healthcare communities, that's like exactly the type of organized set of communities that would be a chapter, and basically those people would be able to claim stamps, and then Happily Ever After would get a portion of the stamp funding that its own communities are redeeming. So that's like one of the ideal kind of organizational structures for a chapter.
Any questions about that before we move on? Okay, perfect. I'll share my screen again. Okay. So next, you can always go to panvala.com/stamps to find out the active campaigns that are currently running. We are in the process of creating some new campaigns, so we should have some more info about that after the new year. Our leaderboard for Batch 16, I'm so happy Victor is here. He is the founder or one of the founders of Shenanigans. I'm not sure which one, but they pulled in the most amount of funding this quarter, and I know their community worked really hard on collecting stamps to do that, so congratulations. So you can see our top 5 communities there. Thanks, Paul, for putting together the graphic. And the other thing I wanted to mention is we're going to have a little meme-a-thon next month. It's the first one we've ever done, and it's kind of just a fun, silly event for us to make memes around Panvala that we can share, throughout the month. So it's happening on Friday, January 6th, 12 p.m. Eastern time. We'll post in our Discord channel and in our newsletter and on Twitter as a link to sign up. But if that sounds fun to you, or you know anyone who loves to make memes, please invite them. I think we'll all be there, trying to create some. So it's not what we're best at. So that's why we want to invite other people to join that.
Just so people know, I had never seen that particular meme before, and that's pretty hilarious. I never saw myself as Salt Bear sprinkling pan on things, but now I see it.
Neuron, just so you know, it's on Twitter too.
Awesome, I love it.
Yeah, it makes me happy as well. And lastly, if you have a podcast or Twitter space or community call that we can join, we'd love to come and talk about Panvala and our program and how we can help your community do the things it wants to do through funding. Or if you know of a community that might be interested in joining, you can always come and talk to them about what we do before they, make any choices. So you can let us know on our Discord channel or reach out to any of us individually as well. Neuron, is there anything else you would like to talk about?
I think we've really covered the most of it. Really, we're just always excited to have more communities be part of this movement. We're excited to grow the movement with these chapters that are being formed, and really to show people more of what it looks like to have a community-centered economy. It's one where every marketing dollar really goes to communities at the end of the day, where ambitious communities like HEA and the others you've heard of today can actually follow through on those ambitions and reshape our world to be more community-centered. That's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of time. But through acting together with this shared vision of how the world can and should work, we can actually make an impact on what that looks like. Every kind of movement that has shaped the world starts off looking something like this, where people come together with some sort of idea about how the world can be and about what actions they need to take to get there, and then they start doing it. So we're really excited that you're here in the room with us today, taking those actions to chart a course for a future that works for more communities, for more people, and that doesn't feel as rigid and unbending as the current society that we live in. That people should really be able to shape their society by joining a community of like-minded people, using their share of the resources that they've shifted in our economy, and really building the world they want to live in for their own community. And that's what we're trying to help more and more people realize through this movement. And we're happy to be doing it with you.
Thanks, Niran. Does anyone have any questions about anything we spoke about today?
I have a question on the meme-a-thon. Do you have to come prepared with memes, or do you come and then there are some memes you can create together?
Yeah, you don't have to come prepared at all. It's more of a hangout. Let's see what we create over the hour. You can come and go as you like. Bring snacks. It's very laid back.
Cool, it's a great initiative.
Okay, if there aren't any more questions, then I just want to thank everyone for coming. And if anything does come up, you can always reach out to us anytime. Yeah, enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rachel. Thanks, everyone. Bye.